Let's just start with that quote, shall we? He thought that he had committed the perfect murder. It was almost perfect. Those are the words of someone who got caught in an unbelievable web of lies. And it's a story about a crime so carefully planned, so meticulous. It was this close to being unsolvable. But as you're about to see, that little word almost changes everything. So today, we're unpacking the truly wild case of the Rolex killer. We're going to follow an investigation that kicks off with a completely nameless body and spirals into this international chase for a true master of manipulation. So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the pretty grim discovery at sea. Then we'll get to a completely bizarre twist of fate that just blows the case wide open. After that, we'll dig into the killer's hidden past, see how the cops pieced all the evidence together, and finally land on that dramatic courtroom showdown. Okay, let's set the scene. It's July 1996, 5 in the morning, off the coast of Devon in England. A couple of fishermen are pulling up their nets, expecting, fish. But what they find tangled in there isn't just a bad day's catch. It's the start of a case you just couldn't make up. A man's body literally falls out onto the deck. The police get called, and at first, everyone's thinking it's a tragic accident. I mean, maybe he fell off a boat in the channel, right? But something's off. His pockets are completely empty, turned inside out. And maybe even stranger, no one, and I mean no one, has been reported missing. So right off the bat, investigators are staring at a huge problem. You've got no wallet, no ID, no one's looking for this guy. Where do you even begin? How do you give a name to a ghost? Well, believe it or not, the answer was ticking right there on his wrist. It was the one and only valuable thing left on the body, a Rolex. And this single, high-end clue was about to crack the whole thing wide open. This is just some seriously clever police work. One of the officers realized that a real Rolex has a unique serial number etched into it, so they get on the phone with Rolex, who traces that number to a time the watch was serviced at a jeweler up in Yorkshire, and just like that, their John Doe has a name, Ronald Joseph Platt. All right, so now they have a name, they can start building a timeline. They find Platt's last known address, and they get the name of a personal reference, a guy named David Davis. It seems like a totally routine, by-the-book follow-up, but they have no idea what they're about to walk into. The police call this Mr. Davis, and he is just smooth. He's charming, helpful, well-spoken. He tells them, oh yes, my good friend Ron, he just moved to France to start a new business. I even loaned him some money for it. It all sounds perfectly reasonable. The case looks like a tragic accident, all wrapped up. But this is where the story takes a turn you would not believe, and it's all down to pure dumb luck. An officer drives out to get a final signature from Davis. He gets to this little rural street, 4 houses, no numbers. So he just picks one, walks up, and knocks. An elderly couple answers. He asked for David Davis, and they point next door and say, oh no, you've got the wrong house. It's Ron Platt that lives there. And in that instant, it clicks. The officer realizes the helpful friend, David Davis, is Ronald Platt. He's been impersonating the dead man all along. And listen to this quote from that very police officer. You can just feel how close this came to being a cold case. If he had knocked on the right door, he'd have gotten the signature from David Davis, and that would have been that. The killer would have gotten away with it scot-free. So that one lucky mistake changes absolutely everything. The police now know this wasn't an accident. They're dealing with foul play and a seriously sophisticated imposter. To figure out who this David Davis really is, they find Ronald Platt's ex-girlfriend, a woman named Elaine Boyce, hoping she can help them untangle this mess. And boy, does she have a story. She explains how this charming man, David Davis, swept into her and Ron's life back in '91. He made them directors of his company, supposedly to hide money from an ex-wife. Then he generously offered to buy them one-way tickets to Canada so they could start a new life. With just one odd request. Could they please leave behind rubber stamps of their signatures for business? The moment they were gone, he just became Ronald Platt. So yeah, David Davis was never a real person. He was a phantom. Once the police sent fingerprints to Interpol, they finally got a hit. His real name? Albert Walker. And he wasn't just some local con artist. He was an international fugitive from Canada, on Interpol's most wanted list for massive financial crimes. And here we are back at Elaine's words. She talks about how everyone, from friends to people at his church, thought Walker was this upstanding, kind, generous man. His greatest skill was making you trust him, which made the betrayal that much more devastating. In her words, his act was almost perfect. So, now they know who he is. Albert Walker is arrested for murder. But here's the thing. Knowing someone is a liar and a thief is one thing. Proving he's a killer? That's a whole other ballgame. They need cold, hard evidence. Okay, let's look at how the case came together. Remember that fishing net? Well, they hauled up an anchor in it too. That anchor got sold at a local market, but police tracked it down. A pathologist confirmed the marks it would make were a perfect match for injuries on the victim. Then they checked the GPS on Walker's yacht, the Lady Jane, and bingo, it put him right where the body was found on the day of the murder. Add to that the gold bars and cash found in his kid's diaper bag and 2 full sets of ID, the net was closing in. But the most chilling discovery of all was about his family. The young woman everyone knew as Walker's wife, that was his own daughter, Sheena. He'd fled Canada with her when she was just 15 years old, forced her to pose as his wife, and had 2 children with her. Neighbors just thought she was shy, but one did remember a really weird moment when she accidentally called him daddy. Just unbelievable. And why was he running in the first place? Why all the lies, the stolen identities? Well, this number pretty much says it all. Albert Walker had embezzled $3.2 million from his clients back home in Canada. That's what started this entire spiral. And with that, the motive for murder becomes crystal clear. The real Ronald Platt, whose Canadian dream didn't pan out, was coming back to England. You can't have 2 Ronald Platts in the same country. Walker's carefully built world was about to implode. So, from his point of view, the original Ron Platt had to go. And all of this leads us to the trial at Exeter Crown Court in June of 1998. And even then, Albert Walker was as cool as a cucumber, totally convinced he could charm the jury, just like he'd charmed everyone else his entire life. But in court, his luck ran out. That Rolex watch made one last crucial appearance. Its 48-hour power reserve helped experts nail down the exact time of death. But the real nail in the coffin was the testimony from his own daughter, Sheena. She got on the stand and confirmed he took the boat out alone on the day of the murder. Walker tried to talk his way out of it, but this time, nobody was buying it. The jury saw right through him. It took them only 2 hours to come back with a verdict. Guilty. Albert Walker was sentenced to life in prison, and his long, twisted road of lies and manipulation finally came to an end. Which leaves us with the big question, right? Did this whole case hinge on the sheer luck of a cop knocking on the wrong door? Or was it the result of incredible, painstaking detective work of people who refused to give up on the single clue, like a tiny serial number on a watch? Honestly, maybe the real answer is, it was the perfect storm of